A second round of US-brokered peace talks between Ukraine and Russia has begun in Abu Dhabi. Ukrainian negotiator Rustem Umerov confirmed the start of the two-day trilateral meetings, which aims to advance efforts to end Europe's largest conflict since World War II. The discussions focus on sensitive issues such as Russia's demand for Ukraine to cede land, particularly in the Donetsk region, and the fate of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which remains under Russian occupation. Despite the US pushing both sides to find common ground, major differences remain, with Ukraine rejecting any territorial concessions. The ongoing conflict, which began after Russia's 2022 invasion, continues to fuel tensions as Moscow controls about 20% of Ukraine's territory. We are now being joined by Colin Chong-Yu-Keat, who is a Foreign Affairs and Secretary in Strategy Analysis, joining us from Kuala Lumpur. Thank you so much for joining us here today on NewsX World. It's a pleasure to talk to you. Now, as we saw, what are the key obstacles that are most likely to shape the outcome of these peace talks, such as territorial disputes, security guarantees, or prisoner exchanges, and can they realistically be bridged?
Well, we have seen the two major sticking points now. The first would be, of course, the status of territories on the recognition by both sides. So this remains the central sticking point. Russia is demanding the withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from occupied areas, notably from parts of Donetsk, and also the wider recognition of territorial transfers to Moscow. And we have known that Ukraine is pressing firm on the need not to cede any kind of sovereignty and control to Russia. Of course, also Kyiv is pressing to freeze the conflict on current front lines, and of course rejecting any unilateral pullbacks that will undercut its own sovereignty and national interests. And of course, with regards to the security guarantees of Ukraine, we have seen how Kyiv has been adamant in getting tangible and needed long-term security guarantees from both, of course, the US and NATO, and we have seen how also Russia is against any future participation of Ukraine in NATO. So despite this diplomatic push and forth, we have seen how both sides will not want to concede, and Russia is negotiating from a point of strength. It is gaining more leverage now in terms of recent momentum for the past couple of weeks now on the strikes on Ukraine, and there's this also deep mistrust and distrust, and Kyiv has been accusing Moscow of lacking seriousness about any kind of negotiations in the first place. Amidst this new push by Moscow in targeting the energy infrastructure of Ukraine, especially during winter. And we have seen also public opinion in Ukraine is still strong in terms of opposing any kind of territorial concessions to Russia. And this remains the main blockade and roadblock towards any substantive or credible outcome from these negotiations. And this is where President Trump has been saying that he has been sad to see that those kind of stumbling blocks that still remain, but Russia still has the leverage, and he has stated that he will continue the war for as long as it takes. What it still calls as a special military option on Ukraine. Then Ukraine is lacking the needed long-term push now, and the defense and security support and arms support, not only from Europe but also especially from Washington. If this goes on and if this drags on, of course, President Trump has warned both sides that this would not be on good terms for both sides, and we have to remember that President Trump's term will end soon for the next 3 years now, and it remains to be seen how Ukraine will still have the needed credible security and arms support from the US, and this Russia is negotiating from a higher leverage now, and for now it sees no certain or credible immediate returns from an immediate cessation of conflict, because it still has the major resources to carry on, unlike the position of Ukraine now. So of course this is again we've seen how this will further drag on a protracted basis, and President Trump was right to ensure that this ends now, but for this talk in Abu Dhabi, I simply don't see any credible outcomes apart from this areas of lower sensitivity in terms of providing these confidence-building measures for both sides. Ellie.
And can these US talks in Abu Dhabi succeed without any significant shift in battlefield realities, or is an agreed ceasefire necessary before any real negotiations take place?
Well, Moscow is sensing the apparent weaknesses of Kiev in terms of getting the needed support from both Europe and the US now, and hence we have seen how he has gained the confidence and the strength, and negotiating from a position of higher leverage, and we have seen how in parallel they are still going all out, and especially for Moscow, it still has the long-term sustaining capacity of of maintaining this conflict, and the same cannot be said for Ukraine, because we have seen how this uncertainties and volatility in terms of this support system with regards to also concurrent conflicts throughout the world, and also in regards to tensions in transatlantic ties, and of course, even if no breakthrough is reached in this round of talks, of course, our positive indication will be that hopefully it may reduce also escalation risks and to lay groundwork for future frameworks. But I don't see any credible or initial agreements on these sensitive territorial issues, and that and Russia has Russia still has the time to prolong this, and of course you force Ukraine to toe the line and to be aligned to the wants and demands of Moscow with regards to the territorial issues. And if Ukraine is not wanting to do that, whether from Zelensky or whether from the public opposition in Ukraine, Russia will use that as a pretext to accuse Ukraine of stalling the whole agreement and negotiations, and still has all the time in the world and capacity to continue to drag this war. So we've seen, this is to the disadvantage of Ukraine, and of course the importance of the involvement of the US to continue to be the mediator and to push both sides and to hold the one party to be accountable for dragging the whole process along, whether it's Moscow, whether it's Kiev. Only Washington has the pressure and power to do that, and we hope that it will continue for the next round.
Thank you. Don't go too far, as we will come back to you in just a moment. The Kremlin has reiterated that Russia's offensive in Ukraine will continue until Kyiv agrees to Moscow's terms, as US-mediated talks begin in Abu Dhabi. Speaking to reporters, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stated that until the Kyiv regime makes the appropriate decisions, the special military operation continues, using Russia's term for the nearly 4-year conflict. The talks in Abu Dhabi come amid ongoing international pressure for a negotiated settlement. Both sides have signalled cautious optimism, but deep divisions remain over territorial control, security guarantees, and the future of eastern Ukraine. We are now being joined back again by Collins Chong-Yu-Keat. Thank you so much for joining us back here again. What are the implications of Russia's public stance that the war will not end until Ukraine accepts Moscow's terms? And how does this affect the credibility of ongoing peace negotiations?
Well, we have seen how Moscow is cognizant of the persistent war fatigue now affecting Ukraine and Europe, and of course also the US. And this statement is also a signal to shape expectations, and especially expectations of Washington. The point of this public line is to narrow this landing zone before the hardening of this bargaining capacity. And of course, we have seen how it simply says that if you don't sell us a compromise, then and you basically sell Kyiv on our terms. And of course, also this again, he has the position and capacity to say that now and to do that now with this sustaining war capacity. And we have seen how Ukraine has been pushed back further for the past couple of months now. It's also a hedge against appearing weak in entering the talks. And we have seen how this for the past couple of days now, the sustaining attacks on Ukraine has increased Moscow. And of course, also it's also part of the attempts to split the peace camp coalitions. It's a maximalist framing pressure. On one side, we have seen how Ukraine's partners who have been wanting for rapid de-escalation, and also on the other side, who has been cautious and who has been adamant in ensuring that the national sovereignty of Ukraine, especially with regards to the territories involved, will be the ultimate red lines, and also in galvanizing, also seeing how the public mood in Ukraine, by giving this ultimate choice, whether to have concessions in terms of the territories, or to see that Ukraine will continue to be mired in this never-ending war in the first place. So, but of course, there's this risk and drawback where by doing this, it can also harden the Ukrainian resistance and the public narrative and public sentiment, but we have seen how there's no other power apart from the US who can again sustain, or who can again use different tools and platforms to push both sides to come to this, at least on the compromise deal, leading up to the complexity of the territorial integrity and in terms of that issue. But apart from that, for this second round of talks, we can only expect some marginal gains in terms of on other areas, but not really on the deals on the territories involved. So as I've stated, Russia still has the capacity to do that, to drag this war further on. But Ukraine will be the one who will be suffering on the other side if it continues to leverage on this pretext of using the public sentiments and mood of hardening nationalist measures, and to avoid any kind of talks whatsoever with regards to the Ukrainian territories. And if this is true, then of course we will see a continued protracted war, and this has been this has entered the fourth year now, and we have to remember that without President Trump's persistence, this will have even gotten worse. And hopefully for this few round of talks, we can see some breakthroughs, at least initially.
Thank you so much, Collins Chong-Yu-Keep, for joining us here today on NewsX World. Chinese President Xi Jinping